Hey, this is Katarina Polonska, high-performance relationship coach to executives and entrepreneurs. And if you really want to learn how to level up your life, you should be listening to the Time to Shine Today podcast with my good friend, Scott Ferguson. Let's level up.
Time to Shine Today podcast, Varsity Squad. It is Scott Ferguson. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is such a treat. I get to bring you my good friend, Katarina Polonska. She's got a really cool story. She's very transparent, very easy to talk to, and she was just dropping knowledge nuggets after knowledge nuggets with regards to really kind of how to really build a solid relationship with her steps and her programs. So like if you're really a high achiever out there in the world, but maybe your relationships are just lacking just a little bit, please tune in, break out your notebooks. I know it's weird to say, but break out your notebooks on this and maybe sit back and relax, because the knowledge nuggets she drops on how to really build authentic, sustainable relationships was just super on point. So without further ado, here's my really good friend, Katarina Polonska. Let's level up. Time to Shine Today podcast, Varsity Squad. This is Scott Ferguson. I am blessed to bring you guys this absolutely phenomenal friend of mine who's over in Ibiza. I'm going to say it wrong with it, Ibiza, but a good friend, Katarina Polonska, and she's a rock star coach. She helps little high performers, high achievers be as successful in their relationships and basically their home life as they are in their careers. She's accredited coach to the ICF, a high performance relationship coach and gender dynamic social scientist. She utilizes extensive behavioral science experience, transformational coaching, embodied cognition methodologies, and mindfulness to guide individuals in paving the pathways to their life partner. And she's also a smarty pants here. She's got a gender studies master's degree from the University of Oxford and DEI background from the University of Cambridge. So there's some big words there, but off mic here, squad, we had a really fun conversation. So she's gonna, for all of us out there, she'll kind of probably dumb it down a little bit for us so we can really understand where she's coming from. But Katarina, thank you so much for coming on. Please introduce yourself to Time to Shine Today podcast, Varsity Squad. But first, what's your favorite color and why?
Oh, good question. First thing that comes to mind is green, like
Great.
Evergreen.
Okay.
Lovely pine tree, Pacific Northwest, evergreen.
Yes.
I miss living in Vancouver. So yeah, that green.
Get that. And green is like rebirth. It's kind of like new. It's color of
Yeah.
money too in the United
Yeah.
States anyway. So take that as well.
It's a good positive color. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. It's a fun color. So let's get to the roots a little bit. Like what's your story? We'll say kind of coming up through the ranks and being the rock star, highly sought after coach that you are right now.
Oh, bless you. What an introduction as well. Thank you for that. It's the boost that I needed. So the story, I always like to think the story is kind of segmented into professional, academic, personal, like three-pronged story. And maybe I'll start with the professional, how I got into the coaching space. So I actually did my first ever coaching qualification when I was 17.
Wow. That was like 2 years ago.
Half a lifetime ago. Right. Over half a lifetime ago. My dad, I was very lucky to grow up with a very Eastern European household that was into personal development. And anyone who is from Eastern Europe will know that there's a type of family who are like this. I grew up with Tony Robbins books and all of that. I remember finding Susan Jeffers, the like Field of Fear or something, Guide to Long-Lasting Love, and all of this stuff. So I grew up with that. And when I was 17, I had insomnia. And my dad, rather than getting me a therapist, was like, just train to be a coach and cure yourself. So he paid for me to do my first coaching qualification. And
gosh, what was that qualification? You remember the qualification?
It was NLP coaching.
Oh, neuro-linguistic programming?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Which was profound. I mean, I was 17
also, dude.
Yeah.
It's like your brain's not even molded yet and you're into the NLP. That's amazing.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. It was amazing. Yeah. Like it was profound. And after that, I then went off and had a, stint in entrepreneurship. I actually lived in Ibiza after I did my undergrad, and I was working in the champagne and wine trade. So very different space.
Sure.
And that career took me to living in Dubai in the Middle East. Ooh, and when I was living in the Middle East, I loved it for the first year, didn't love it for the second year. Right. And it was in that second year that I became kind of passionate about equality, human rights, justice, and all the things. And that's when I decided I'm going to leave the champagne and wine trade, go and do something that has impact in my career. And that's what really prompted me to go to Oxford to do a master's degree and study gender studies. So did that. After that, worked briefly in philanthropy, which led me to working with a lot of founders and high achievers, because I was essentially working with philanthropists. And in that experience, I spent a couple of years in philanthropy, but slowly moved into behavioral science. Kind of the, two like short story is I burnt out in philanthropy. That's the truth.
Sure.
I found it pretty exhausting chasing wealthy people for money.
To donate it and everything else.
Yeah.
Right?
And I was building programs. I was working with Syrian refugees. It was really interesting, compelling programs, but ultimately I burnt out. So that's what got me to behavioral science. And I started out as an organizational consultant, so working with companies like Fortune 500 companies and consulting them on their people strategy.
Okay.
So how can I help the people be happier and healthier and work better, etc. And then slowly but surely that led me into my DE&I journey because of the gender background. I did a lot of that. And then that slowly evolved into coaching because over time I realized that in terms of kind of like training, the coaching questions can often have a longer lasting impact than just teaching, right? You kind of need that hybrid approach.
Okay.
And so long story short, I started working for a huge coaching company. They're called BetterUp. They're the biggest coaching company in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I loved my coaches. I loved my coaches. And so that's what got me to train into the ICF and start my own coaching practice. Now that's kind of the professional story. Parallel to all of that, academically, and the academic was kind of a little bit dry, so I'll zoom through this. I specialized in studying gender. I don't know why I actually got asked that today. Like, why have you been interested in masculinity, femininity?
Yeah.
I think it's partly because of the Eastern European background. It's a very gendered society that I grew up in. There was a very strong message around what it is to be a feminine woman and a career woman, and they were kind of very siloed against each other. So I grew up with these kind of competing narratives. And when I was doing my undergrad, I decided to study masculinity because I was really interested in where was masculinity going, getting a little bit lost in American society. I specialized in that. And then for my master's degree, coming out of Dubai, I was also really interested in masculinity, femininity, kind of gender dynamics and how it all plays out. So that was my academic background, which really actually informs so much of my work now. I didn't think it would, but it really does. And then the personal side of things, I spent all my 20s, I think, looking for love.
Okay.
Like I really was someone who I had a great time in my 20s. I built my career. I lived in like 5 different countries. I was zooming around the world, traveling and everything. But in the back of my mind, of course, I was always looking for that person. I was always looking for that connection. And I had relationships, I had boyfriends and whatever. My parents went through a divorce, which was really painful to see in my 20s.
Was that surprising?
Very surprising, completely out of the blue. And as an adult, it was a very different experience to what I think it would have been if I'd been a child. Because no one really protected me from the reality of it, right? Like as an adult, I became kind of the rock of the family and had both parents leaning on me. And that was incredibly hard. So that definitely shaped my understanding of how difficult relationships can be. And that after 37 years of marriage, they can fall apart, right? And I remember I was really trying to analyze and understand with my own therapist, like, where did they go wrong? So that was a big kind of formative experience. And then as I entered my 30s and I moved to Vancouver, got myself an apartment, started to settle down, I thought now is the time I'm probably going to meet the one and build my own life.
A nice Canadian guy, right?
Exactly. And I found him. I remember I was like, I found him on Bumble and he ticked all of my boxes and we had the most wonderful courtship and everything was picture perfect, like truly picture perfect. And we moved in together, like he moved into my flat and then we were living together, then we got engaged and everything on the surface seemed perfect, truly. Like I don't think anyone externally would have ever suspected that it wasn't right. But deep down, and I think he knew it deep down, I think we both knew it wasn't the right fit. My gut was telling me the whole time, like, this is wrong. And I would lie in bed at night, honestly, thinking like, is this it? Which I never thought people actually do, but I was doing that, really questioning, right? Like I've got the job, I've got this amazing lifestyle. I live in the most beautiful city in the world, Vancouver. I don't even work long hours and I earn great money and I got this incredible partner, this incredible life. Why am I feeling so empty? And for various reasons, I ended up calling off the engagement.
Okay.
So I did call off the engagement, and it was the right thing to do on so many levels. So as soon as I called it off, I felt such a relief. I think he felt such a relief. But it was also the most humbling thing I think I've been through, because it was kind of like, how did I get here? How in my 30s, after everything, doing everything I thought I needed to do, did I have to call this off after 3 years, having the wedding planned and everything? It was humiliating,
Sure.
truly. And that's when I kind of decided, like, I need to figure this out, because
Right.
I don't want to die alone. I want to understand where I've gone wrong.
Right.
I've followed all the rules and the steps that I believed I should follow, and I've done everything right, I thought. Followed the advice of my therapists and blah, blah, blah. But really, it was actually my own relationship coach at the time who opened my eyes to things being not quite what they seemed. And she gave me that confidence to leave, right?
Sure.
And so anyhow, in that time, I threw myself into everything. I was probably the most obsessive person about trying to figure out love and where I'd gone wrong and where it goes right. And I did so many types of therapy and so much coaching and so much studying and reading. And I kind of isolated myself a little bit. At the same time, I should also add, Ukraine war had started. Yeah. And so I was kind of going through my own grief and distraught feelings there. I lived in Ukraine. And then, yeah, I got to this point where I now understand is like stage 12 of my program. I got to this point where I was feeling so good about myself and my life, and so relaxed and so free and so unattached, and yet so clear on what it is that I wanted. I met my husband so unexpectedly on a dance floor, drinking wine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. A lot of things happen. It's kind of like when you're in the shower and your best ideas come to you because you're not thinking about anything else. I can just see you on the dance floor with a glass of wine. You meet the dude. You weren't expecting it, and bam, it happens. Exactly. That's amazing. So
exactly.
Within the coaching world, then, Katarina, let's just throw it out there. What do you think makes a great coach?
Really good question. I actually have not been asked that on a podcast. Really good question. Because I don't think there are that many out there, truly. I think there's a lot of bad coaches out there.
Right.
What makes a good coach is asking the right questions, asking good questions. I mean, that's probably the biggest one. Mm-hmm. Also having ethics, right? I cannot stand coaches who promise miracles and huge outcomes that aren't realistic.
Right.
And they're not fair. And then coming in with their own agenda and steering the conversation into a certain direction, right?
They think they're consultants. That's not a coach. I mean, I'm a big believer that everybody knows what they want. They just don't know how to talk themselves into it. And that that problem that resides in their heart, the solution's there too. Like I put, if I was to coach you, right? We were live in person, which in South Florida, I'm blessed to have a lot of in-person clients. I go out to their car. One, I want to see how their car looks, right? You can tell how the organizational life, but I put them in the driver's seat and I'm like, listen, this little like rearview mirror here, that's your past. It's a great place to visit. It's a great place to learn from, where we're not living there. This windshield, huge, big, scary. But since 2011, they started putting these things in the car called a GPS. And that's what I am as a coach. I'm not going to be able to buckle your freaking seatbelt. I'm not going to be able to start your freaking car. Go. But when you get stuck, that's what a coach is there for. And you come up with the ideas.
100%.
That's the thing with a good coach. And I can just 100%. See you coaching, giving your clients like a safe space to share. I can see that with you. So
thank you.
Let's say we're in a discovery period right now, making sure you're the right horse for the course, the right coach, right? And you're having the discussion. Is there any secret sauce, if you don't mind sharing, that helps them maybe shine a light on that initial blind spot?
Oh, that's a really good question. And yeah, that's a very good question, because I was about to say, like, I don't typically look for that blind spot in the discovery session. That's kind of in the first session, right?
Okay.
That being said, I So what I have is I have a 12-stage curriculum. It's kind of 13 stages, but it's like 12 stages of like these steps that we have to go through. Pretty much
Beautiful.
all of us have to go through in order
Sure.
to transform into the type of person
Ooh,
who can easily and effortlessly attract the right love, right? And it's a process of
nice.
inner growth and inner work.
Okay.
It's what I went through. It's what my clients go through. It's what a lot of people do very ad hoc, kind of without a system. They just kind of do it in not in a systematic way, which is what drove me nuts, to be honest. And I think I like a methodology. I like
I
logic.
can see that. I mean, you have
I
a
like a system,
master's.
right?
It's like, yeah, you
Yeah, I
have the
like a
steps. I love that.
yeah.
Okay.
Because I honestly I don't know how much money I spent like throwing
I
spaghetti
was
at the
gonna
wall
say, dude, you must have
figure it
spent
out.
thousands upon thousands in coaching
Oh
and
yeah, I actually
therapy, and
calculated it. It was like around the 100K mark
I
over
was
the
gonna
years.
say, okay,
Yeah. So I put it all into a system.
right,
And yeah, looking at the blind spots is actually stage 2 of my
okay,
system, where I help them identify where are their blockers. That being said, though, one of the biggest and fastest way to identify the blockers, and this is actually what I'm going to be doing in my masterclass, is to look at the 12 stages, which I will typically walk a client through or a prospective client through, and begin to discern where is it that they're actually getting surprised by information and they haven't even looked at this stuff. Right. I had a
love
client
it,
earlier today and we're on stage 2. And he was like, I've never actually looked at this. I've never done work on this. And that's when I'm like, oh, okay.
right,
Stage 2, like there's a ton of work to be done here.
right,
So again, having a system, it allows me to get quite clear on what have and haven't they done
mm,
and where might we need to focus in order to get that transformation going
love
so that
it.
they can take that progress and move forward to finding
That's
love.
beautiful. Like, I'm not that systemized. I'm blessed to coach professional athletes, actors,
Yeah.
actresses, and stuff like that. I'm more of my superpower is curiosity. So I go where
Mm,
it goes, but I'm my coach that coaches me knows
yeah.
I'm ex-military. They
Yeah.
know the stuff. And so she's got this system that just puts
Yeah.
it through with that. And it's funny because I've been married twice, right? And
Yeah.
I'm 52 now, but it took me until I was 47 to meet Susan. So it was like, but it's funny, some of the stuff you were talking about actually led to meeting her. So
Right.
it's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
So let's
Yeah.
say you might be in another discovery session. Is there any good question that you wish they would ask you but never do?
Ooh, that's another really good question.
You're on time to shine today, Katarina. All right.
Yeah, yeah. Good question. Let me think. I guess like it would be, I don't know if there's anything that I would want them to ask, but I think what could be actually maybe no, maybe there is. Maybe there is. I think what it would be is to ask about the level of kind of tenacity and dedication
Ooh, there you
that
go.
we have
What's
to apply
expected of
ourselves,
me, right? You
right?
know?
Like I think that's the thing. I think
Yes.
it's bananas when I hear some people out there promising like you'll find love in like 6 weeks. And it's like
No, dude.
you transformation doesn't happen that quickly, right? Like my
Right.
group program is 6 months, my one-on-one is 3 months. And I definitely don't promise you a husband or a wife at the end of that.
Good.
Would be
Good.
bonkers, right? That would be
Yeah.
lies.
Yeah.
I do promise that I will give you the tools and techniques and teach you everything that you need to do and get you on the way.
But
And
you
I'll
got
go
to drive
all
the car.
absolutely.
You
And
got to drive
yeah, you
it.
have unlimited access on WhatsApp to me. And I told my client again today, I'm like, call me, use me,
Yeah.
voice note me, tell me where you're at, let me lean in. Because what I would have loved when I was doing my own journey was having access to someone who's done it before to help guide me, right? And I didn't
Yes.
have that. And that's what I consciously wanted to create here is if you want to do this quickly, and you
Right.
can, but it's going to take daily discipline and doing that inner work.
Right.
It's not going to be from like half an hour a week of scrambling around before our call. Like it's going to have to be a daily practice. It's
You
like a
do
muscle.
work,
It's
buddy.
like yoga.
Yeah. So I tell me, I'm glad you brought yoga up. It's like I practice. I'm on my mat 2 days a week, but
Yeah,
it something. It's inch by inch. It's a cinch, right? By the yard,
absolutely.
it's
Yeah.
hard. Everyone wants it now. It's like, dude, you got to put the work in. And
Yeah.
that's why I'm not the right coach for everybody. That's why we refer
Yeah,
out
totally.
probably 70% of the people.
Absolutely.
But those who
Yeah.
stay win. That's
Yeah.
what, I'll tell them.
Yeah.
It's not going to be overnight, man. You don't build
No,
empires. You don't build a successful company. You
no,
don't lose 40 pounds, which took you 10 years to put on in 3 months.
totally.
So that's
Totally.
beautiful. Katarina, have you seen the movie Back to the Future?
Oh my goodness, such a long time ago.
Right. It's going to be 40 years
Yeah.
old, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
anyways,
yeah.
let's get that DeLorean with Marty McFly, right? Let's go back to the double deuce, the 22-year-old Katarina. What kind of knowledge nuggets might you drop on her? Not to change anything, because your journey has been pretty freaking awesome. A lot of teachable moments,
Yeah.
a lot learned, but maybe to help her shorten her learning curve, blast through, maybe just a little bit quicker.
Yeah, what a lovely question. It's something I've actually been thinking about a lot, because 22 is when my parents, when my
wow.
father left my mother.
Okay.
And honestly, I look back now and I'm like, oh, that was such a painful time. So incredibly painful to see that. And I think some of the biggest wisdom bits that I've gained since then is to this isn't related to the divorce, but it's to let myself be seen sooner. And what I mean by that
Yeah,
is,
unpack that.
yeah, as someone who's always been very high achieving and very high performing and jumping through all the hoops in front of me, I've always been very good at performing. And I see this with pretty much all my clients. We're all very good at performing a role, being successful at work, being successful at business. And that is a fantastic skill in the world of being, professionalism and career success.
Sure.
But when it comes to our personal lives, we don't want to be performing, right? That's like the opposite. You can perform and role play and have fun with that energy after you've got to the core of who you are and you've allowed yourself to be seen. Then it's okay. Because then you're actually probably leaning into like your shadow and kind of it's very healing in that space. But people don't do that typically. They come in performing from the get-go and having a mask of who they want to be in that relationship. And that's something I was queen of doing, which is how I ended up engaged to the wrong person, right? Like I was playing this performance, as was he, as are so many people out there. And so I think the advice I'd give myself is let yourself be seen, right? No matter how scary it is, no matter how vulnerable it is, no matter how awful and grotesque and horrible I think I am and how people are going to run a mile when they see the real me, to start letting it happen, because life will align so much faster the sooner that I start letting myself be seen.
And you're
The right
transparent. You're
things will
putting it
fall
out
into
there.
place.
Yeah,
Yes.
I love it. So, Katarina, how do you want your dash remembered then? That little line in between your incarnation date and your expiration date, your life date and death date. Hopefully it's way down the line. But how does Katarina want her dash remembered?
I want to be remembered for someone who spread love,
I can see
right?
that, yeah.
Someone who spread love. That's something I've always wanted, actually. I think even when I originally was like, I'm going to be a war journalist and spread the truth, but really I was looking to spread love. Always been looking to spread love, because I don't think that there is actually enough in the world. I think there's enough, there's a lot of it, but I don't think there's enough. And if I can be someone who helps people who often don't get much love, especially in the worlds that they operate in, which again, I look at high achievers, I look at high performers, it is hard out there.
Right.
Like, I don't care how successful you are, how many millions you've made, how great your startup is. It's freaking hard out there.
Yeah.
Right? And if I can bring some love and softness to that, and something that is actually going to lead into, like, I genuinely love living my life, then that's what I want to do.
That's beautiful. So if people really knew Katarina, they would know what?
Oh, you said that the meaning of life is love.
That's fun.
Yeah, I think that is true though.
Yeah.
Right? I think really when we distill authenticity, to be authentic, to be in full expression of who you are, is to actually love yourself and be able to reveal that. Right?
So,
to be truthful is to be in love.
I love it. 100% on board with that. So then what do you think people might misunderstand the most about Katarina?
Yeah, really good question. And I think it's that in creating a system or even a methodology around getting love, there's something unromantic or manipulative about it. It's something a bit artificial and contrived, right? I hear that all the time. There's like resistance of like, oh, I want to work with you, but I don't know. I feel like applying a methodology to my love life is going to be horrible. And I'm like, but it's not manipulation. Absolutely. It's just me having gone through all of that personal development, being an incredibly privileged person who worked in behavioral science, grew up with a coach for a dad, did my coaching so young, had all the therapy under the sun, went to retreats, spent so much money. I've been personally interested in this stuff
Hmm.
and had heartache and heartbreak that would actually get me to go and get more help.
Right.
So I've taken the guesswork out for you.
Yeah.
I've plugged it all together into a proven toolkit. That's all it is. It's
You know-
not manipulation, it's support in
Right.
a
And a lot
smart
of the high
way.
achievers that you work with, they have other people. They get to a point, but they can't get there
Right.
alone, and they have other people organizing their stuff. Okay, making sure that that is.
Mm.
I'm blessed to have Tiffany in Donnie. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I could not do
Yeah.
in my agent Angela. I have to tell her that too, or if not, she'll get mad. Just kidding, Angela. But
Mhm.
if I didn't have those people, there's no way I could keep progressing. But you don't have those people in a relationship. What I'm
Yeah.
saying, it's you and the partner, right?
Totally.
And I can just
Totally.
see your organization that you help put them together with their 12 and 13 steps, right? That says
Mhm.
this is parallel to what you have with an assistant in this
100%.
and that, right? But you're giving you organization to your freaking love life in your relationships. I've never thought of it until like right now about that. That's amazing. You
Yeah.
just brought something to like, thank you so much. I love you for that. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Katarina, then what is your definition of a life well lived?
A life full of love.
I knew you were going to say that. That's why I asked
Right?
it.
Yeah. But it's a life where you love yourself. And that's so cliche, and people are sick of that. I understand.
Yeah.
But self-love doesn't have to look fluffy and pink and woo-woo.
No, it
Self-love looks
shouldn't.
like,
Yeah.
right? Self-love
Right.
looks like knowing who you are in your core, including your BS and the things that you don't love about yourself, but you accept and you embrace as part of you, right? And knowing
Yeah.
who you are inside out and showing up and leading from that essence rather than leading from the head or leading from our
Yeah.
mask, right? It's
From
about just
that.
being so grounded in your
Yes.
authenticity and
Yeah.
letting the chips fall where they may.
Authentic transparency. That's amazing.
Yes.
That's great. Time to Shine Today podcast, Varsity Squad. We are back. And Katarina, you and I, hopefully one day we meet up in person or whatnot, but and we'll talk about some of these questions 15, 20 minutes. But today you got 5 seconds with no explanations, and they can all be answered that way. I promise. You ready to level up?
Okay. Yeah.
Here we go. All right, Katarina, what is the best leveling up advice you've ever received?
To love yourself.
Beautiful. So share with me one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
Meditating daily.
Beautiful. Awesome. So you see me maybe walking down the street or at an event, or just you see me somewhere and you're like, Fergie looks like he's in his doldrums a little bit. What book really kind of flipped a switch in your head to really kind of help you move in and step into yourself a little bit and out of the doldrums?
Which book?
Yeah.
Michael Singer's The Untethered Soul.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Your most commonly used emoji when you text?
Hearts.
Hearts. Love it.
Cliche.
Nicknames growing up?
Catty.
Catty? Awesome.
Yeah, Catty.
So tell me about a hidden talent and or superpower that you have that nobody knows about until now.
Question. I think like creative thinking, but not in a typical way. Kind of
I
like
feel you.
staring at a problem and being like, what's a really strange way of solving this?
Right.
Like no one has thought of before. And
I love it.
that. Yeah.
Love it. Chess, checkers, or Monopoly?
Chess.
Okay. Headline for your life?
The creator of love.
Beautiful. Go-to ice cream flavor?
Ooh. Oh God, too many. Stracciatella. I live in Spain.
Okay, very cool. Love it.
Mm.
There's a sandwich called the Kate. Build that sandwich for me. What's on it?
Good question. Probably lots. Well, this sounds actually quite horrible. I was gonna say salmon with vegetables. That probably won't be that nice, will it? Something along the lines of that, though.
Nice, love it. Favorite charity and or organization you like to give your time or money to?
I love giving what we can. Give directly. I'd say give directly.
Okay.
Yeah, for charity.
Love it. So last question, you can elaborate on this one a little bit, but the best decade of music, 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
Oof. Well, I'm going to say 90s.
Okay, very cool.
Right.
I figure, all right. I graduated in 1990, so it's like from high school. So it's like the 80s was my jam. Well, that's awesome. So Katarina, my friend, how can we find you?
KatarinaPolonska.com, my
Okay.
website. And in that, I've got some cool free downloads. There's a love life audit, which is part of my stage 1 that you can download,
Okay.
and my manifesto for a healthy and secure relationship. And then I also do have a masterclass coming up on the 29th.
Tell us about that. That's, I believe it's February 29th, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Leap day.
Yeah.
Leap year day.
It is. Good. Yeah. The day that women propose to men, apparently.
So tell me a little bit about what's going on there at the masterclass.
Yeah. So I get asked a lot about what's the behavioral science of attraction? What are the 12 stages? Why do you help like high performers and high achievers find love? Like, why that demographic? And so I figured what better way than to get out of my own comfort zone and do a live masterclass that I can promote and bring in people that I might not necessarily know.
Sure.
And and run a masterclass and answer questions live. So it'll be fun. I'm kind of terrified, but I'm sure it'll be.
You'll crush it. Let me ask you, will there be a replay of the masterclass?
If Zoom webinar allows me to, then yes.
Yeah, they do. 100%. Yeah. Okay. So just make sure you record that, because again, just for timing, with our favorite color being green and evergreen, we want to keep it out there as much as we can.
Absolutely.
Just get that out there. Beautiful. So I'll make sure that squad watch for your emails for that. If this might drop after February 29th, but just go back and check your emails, because you have gotten a couple of emails about the masterclass itself. So excellent. And Katarina, do me one last solid, please, and leave us with one last knowledge nugget we can take with us, internalize, and take action on.
Great question. Last knowledge nugget I would say is, if you don't meditate yet, that's fine. Do what you can, though, to start practicing bringing your attention inward and into your body and into your core, and just noticing what's coming up for you every day when you're out and about, when you're relating to people, when you're with a partner, when you're on a date. To start noticing and taking stock of what's going on for you. That is the fastest hack to begin to familiarize yourself with what's really going on.
Love it. Love it. And squad, we had actually kind of a masterclass here with my good friend Katarina. She kind of has segmented stories about growing up. I mean, she started really kind of first coaching at 17 years old, and she lived kind of in an anomaly with a European household that was really into personal development, which led her down different paths. And when she left the champagne and wine trade, she really knew that she wanted to help people. And thank our creator that's what she did, because she loves to live healthier and happier. And she got really into the curiosity between the masculine and feminine. This curiosity, I think, is definitely one of her superpowers. In the back of her mind, she was always kind of looking for connections for herself. And she realized that when she relaxed a little bit, that final connection kind of really came. And that if you get into a situation where you're feeling yourself a little bit and feeling above, really kind of step back, humble yourself, and really do a deep dive. Katarina really brought that up to us. And if you're looking for a good coach like Katarina, make sure that they are a solid listener, that they're not a consultant telling you what to do. They're going to listen and game plan with you. That I can just see Katarina just listening, not just with her ears, but with her eyes and all their other bodies, what I call listening with your neck, like really leaning into the client, which I know that she does that. She has a tenacity and dedication that really wants to see you succeed. And she really came up with a 12 and 13-step program to really help you get there. And she will remind you that let yourself be seen sooner. Take the mask off, no matter how scary it is. Be authentic and be transparent. I mean, this girl is planting trees she's never going to sit in the shade of. I mean, it's just phenomenal. And she's also does it for the intention, not the attention. Like if you go to her social, and if you're watching a Vimeo or YouTube or whatnot, she's absolutely stunning. But you don't see her like using that part of it to sell things. She's really into wanting to help you. To spread love from a safe place. Know that whether it's good, bad, indifferent, embrace it all, she reminded us. And lastly, if you're not meditating, I'll tell you what, 5 minutes a day for me changed my life with meditation. And really what she reminded is to do what you can to start with the attention and your words and your body and your core. And what comes to the surface, take stock in that. Really lean into it, because it's going to clear your mind so much. And my good friend Katarina levels up her health, She levels up her wealth. She's earned a varsity squad letter here at Time to Shine today. Thank you so much for coming on. I cannot wait to collaborate with you and rock a stage one day. This is going to be so much fun. Thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Time to Shine Today podcast. Proudly brought to you by Sutter and Nugent Real Estate Excellence, who can be reached at 561-249-7266 and online at www.sutterandnugent.com. If you are a business owner or professional who would like to be interviewed on Time to Shine Today, please visit timetoshinetoday.com/guest. If you like this episode, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to our website. Also there, you will see our recommended resources. We hope that you will support our show by supporting them. If you like what you've been listening to, it'd be great if you could just give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe while you're at it. I'm your host, Scott Ferguson, and until next time, let's level up. It's our time to shine.